All right, my friends, welcome back on a Monday. We have a very special virtual press event with a company called Audality. They're going to revolutionize, or they are revolutionizing, very high quality audiophile wireless streaming. So I want to introduce you to a couple of my friends here. We got two Marks from Audality. We've got Matt from Concierge Audio, and of course we got Don Dunn. Get her done, Don. How you guys doing?
Great.
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So the first introduction we had to you guys was over like a year or two ago, I think,
Couple
of the
years ago.
Florida Audio Expo. In fact, Don was there shooting videos because another brand, RBH, implemented your technology through their speakers. And Don and I were both blown away by the sound quality. We thought it was a wired connection. We had no idea what was going on there. And of course, Mark K, I'm going to say Mark K because there's two Marks. Mark, you gave a pretty awesome overview of your technology, and that's why I wanted to have you guys on here on Audioholics, because there's two reasons why you should be here. Number one is you should be here for OEM partners. If anybody in the high-end audio industry, from entry level all the way up, is serious about building a powered speaker and wants to cut the cord, this is the kind of solution that they should be looking at. And then also on the consumer side, we got to look at if there's endpoint products that consumers can implement now to turn their system wireless. And Mark H, that's why you're going to be talking a little bit about that, because you sent me one of your samples here, the A1.
Yep.
And I'm going to give you guys some feedback on that. And then, of course, we've got Matt, who owns a company called Concierge Audio that's been implementing and testing this technology. And Don, of course, has had experience with this as well in his RBH system. So unless you guys want to make any quick comments, I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint and then we can talk through that. And then we can have a Q&A session after.
I think that'd be great.
Sure.
All right. So let me bring this up here. So what does Audality mean? What's the name? What would you guys come up with on that?
Yeah, it's a really combination of audio and quality. And we are so focused on high performance audio with great range over wireless that we chose the name to reflect the fact that we're really a technology brand and also have consumer products that help everybody listen.
And also Audacity was taken, so.
Awesome. All right, let's move on here.
Yeah, so really these are the four major benefits to what we do. And one, it's high quality, uncompressed 24-bit wireless. And we really started this technology years ago for the music industry with wireless guitar systems. And we perfected in that industry. And, in our view at the time, some of the most discerning ears that we could come across was in the music industry. Plus, a guitar player will never get on a stage with a piece of equipment that he's not 100% confident in. So it allowed us to take it through its paces, make improvements in tone, range, and reliability. And then the one-to-many transmission is the one feature that in the music industry doesn't get used at all. Guitar is from your guitar to a mixing board or your amplifier. So once we perfected that, we took it to the single source to multiple destinations for speaker audio and also for multiple sources to a single destination for things like wireless mics, where you want multiple mics connected to the same receiver. And so that is one of the huge benefits over other wireless technologies, especially things like Bluetooth. Of course, from a quality, there's no comparison between what we're doing and that. And it's a patented technology. It's proprietary. It's not on Wi-Fi. It's not Bluetooth. It's its own thing. And because of that, it can run uncompressed with multiple signals at the same time. And it really sounds fantastic. But, with any wireless technology and really with any audio technology, hearing from somebody who's an actual user is a much better way to prove than for me to sit here and tell you all that. So that's really why we wanted to bring Matt and Concierge in and let them tell the story of how we work. And we're also very focused on how to operate with an OEM, somebody who's trying to integrate wireless technology into their products. So that's our real strength.
And that would be like a powered monitor, basically, right? Or a powered tower speaker.
Yeah, powered monitor, a home speaker,
Distribution amplifier.
Yeah, mixing board.
Yep.
So these are just some examples of where our technology is currently being used. Of course, on the left, you can see this beautiful speaker that Matt's going to be talking about in his discussion. But we also have our technology operating in classrooms for wireless microphones and sound systems, for outdoor venues where you need a battery-powered wireless speaker that can really put out some high-power sound. And then also for other things like emergency communications in first responder situations. And really, the one thing in common with all of them is it's audio and it's eliminating cables, but wide variety of different uses of it.
And I think I read on that last slide that the transmission distance is up to 500 feet.
Yeah, in fact, we've done some really crazy stuff that go even longer than that. Like one of our implementations years and years ago was projecting sound down an entire par 5 golf hole so that an announcer could be talking and using a microphone to communicate with speakers at the tee box and at the green for a hole that was about 1,200 yards from end to end. And so we were even further than that. We had a fellow a long time ago who was an aerobatic pilot that used our wireless to send DTMF tones to control his lights on his plane from the ground. So a lot of real crazy things you can do when you have that kind of range.
And I think, Don, I mean, when I've tested Bluetooth products, they go, what, 30 or 40 feet maybe at most, reliably?
Yeah, if you're lucky. So I had
Depends on
the
walls and stuff.
opportunity, a year and a half ago to use Audality products. We're doing a charity event for a client, and we used Audality's wireless powered amplifiers. I believe 4 of them, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
And then the microphone with the little plug that went into the iPhone, and that worked very, very well in a large space.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our mission, to eliminate wires wherever possible in audio and deliver the same quality of sound. And the first thing people like to tell us is there's no way wireless could be as good as cables, but we hear quite often that our sound is as good as a high quality cable. In fact, one of the really cool things about what we can do is we even in the guitar industry back in the day, we were able to tune the sound because we have a DSP in our receiver, and we were able to pretty much replicate the sound in a $150 6-foot guitar cable. And so that's what we're about, eliminating wires and delivering high quality sound at the same time.
So I'm going to pick up this part, Gene, if you don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead.
So Matt and I, we're going to talk a little bit about the journey of our customer, Concierge Audio. Wanted to make one slight correction. Matt is the head of sales that did all the vetting for this product or this implementation. He doesn't own Concierge, but he certainly swings a lot of influence there. And so want to introduce the crowd to industry veteran Matt Santamaria. Matt, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And just wanted to start in, and Matt, I'm going to do less of the talking and more of the prompting and let you do the talking. But we just want to start with, your initial discovery of Audality and just some of your overall impressions initially.
Well, I mean, as you guys we've joked about a little bit, Mark, we discovered it. I discovered it looking at an Audioholics video, and I don't know if Mr. Dunn were you the one doing that interview?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you froze up for a second.
Yeah, Mr. Dunn, were you the one doing that interview on the Audioholics thing?
Yeah, yes, sir, I was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we got a chance to, as fate would have it, our managing director lives in the same state as both Mark and Mark, and that kind of led us over and started this process. We had been working with all the big formats you'd recognize for wireless platforms out there, getting our product off the ground, and had some issues. I've been working working with wireless high resolution audio transmission for over a decade. And I can talk a little bit about that depending on how far you guys want to get into it. But until we found Audality, we didn't find anything that we felt could do what we wanted, which was give us the same level of quality in a reference speaker that we could get out of a wired connection. So that's what kind of started it all off.
So I think we can move to the next slide to help us with that, Gene.
Sure.
So this is Matt. Talk a little bit about the vision of the product you were trying to build, because I think this captures it.
All right, so we're building a set of tower speakers that's going to play in the same sandbox as high-end speakers everybody's familiar with. The retail price is between $75,000 and $85,000. They're full active speakers. They have both DSP and DAC inside, and we stream using endpoints right now from companies like Sonari, and we also go directly from devices like iPads, phones, anything that has a USB out. So these towers are literally plug and play. We can go to outlets, plug them in, and in 30 seconds be playing high-res music without any glitches at all. So for me, it's been a revelation. I usually would have to show up to a client's house or a event and have to spend quite a few hours getting everything dialed in. I literally plug these things in and I'm up and running playing music right away. So it's quite the different experience. I brought way too much cable with me, Gene, the first time I ever did one of those things, because I was worried I was not going to have the redundancies I needed. And it just kind of freed me up to start focusing on the event itself. I've got a few scenarios we put into the slides for you guys today that I can talk to specifically. But it was quite an interesting experience. Experienced it. They sent me samples. This is something I'm sure that the folks at Audality are going to talk about. This is one of the receiving boxes, and we took our reference system. Did you guys want to show that slide at this point, Mark?
Yeah, if we can get to it, sure. Actually, go back one slide and just introduce Rick. And I mean, this is basically, I want this on the video so that everybody will have a chance to read this, because this is the managing partner from Concierge, and this is the words right out of his mouth. They basically were at a standstill point developing wireless for their RMS1 system that we're going to see, because they could not find, because of the work that Matt's getting ready to explain, they could not find a wireless solution that would meet their needs. And so now I think we can go to the next slide and let you speak to that.
Yeah, unfortunately, fellas, I'm still getting a bit of freeze on my end for you guys, so I can't quite hear everything everybody's saying. We'll see if it kicks back in here on my side in just a moment.
We can hear you well, though, Matt, so keep
talking.
Okay,
great. All right, so back to, when you were talking about Rick, luckily for us, Rick is in your home state, Mark and Mark. And that was quite the find. He got with you guys, got some samples, called me up and talked about how excited he was. You guys were kind enough to furnish with me with some samples. We immediately started testing, and what we assembled was a system using the Focal Canta 3s. We had both the Hypex Encore stuff that we buy OEM, and then we also had some AGD GANFET amps. These technologies we were vetting to see what we thought about them for use inside our active speakers. But the main thing is we were able to take the transmitter that Audality provided us and connect it right to the end of a Roon endpoint, right out of the USB out, which is this little box here. In addition to being able to drive it right from any iPhone, iPad, computer, I was able to use it as an endpoint, which is what you see in our diagram here. So I was wirelessly streaming from the transmitter to the receiver into my reference stack in this case, which was a Resonance Lab Mirus Pro. And instead of using a USB cable, I was using the Audality wireless connection. And at that point, I've tested so much wireless over the years. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had a situation where I couldn't tell the difference between the wired and the wireless. And in fact, if I was pressing myself a little bit and playing songs maybe older digital recordings as an example, I sometimes preferred the wireless connection over wired, and that was the first time that's ever happened during any of our testing. So it's quite a revelation.
I had a similar experience with the product when I was using it for a charity event and testing it out in my system. I was blown away. Of course, I said that on the video that we did and got skewered.
You did.
Video. I did. But the reality is I heard what I heard. I mean, I know the noise floor was a little, it was a little hot coming from the Audality, but damn, did it sound good. And, trying to articulate that to a skeptical world, and there's so many applications, for this technology, from distributing audio throughout a home to having a chip put in a television that goes to a powered soundbar or speaker. If you really think about the ecosystem that this creates or gives you the opportunity for, it's pretty cool technology.
Yep.
So, Matt, why don't we talk a little bit about some of the things you did to try to break our technology and compare that to some of the other wireless technologies?
Well, look, like I said, I go back over a decade trying to install wireless audio into people's homes. A lot of times, for lack of a better way to put it, I had to pull this stuff out. Stuff that doesn't work consistently, stuff that glitches, stuff that has issues. Clients aren't going to live with that. So I have some of it still in my storage unit on the property here because I had to pull it out and just kind of figure out a way to get wire in. And some of these clients had penthouses with all glass exposures on high rises where I needed wireless to work. And over the years, I've just had nothing but challenges with it. It wasn't until Audality where I started to really push it hard, where I felt like I could actually pull this off. I was taking their transmitter, fellas, and I was dumping it in the middle of what I call the dark tower. It was a bunch of gaming routers, wireless routers, and I would dump the transmitter right in the middle of it and still see what happened to my playback and walk it around my property and do all kinds of crazy things. And I think more importantly, besides the torture testing, the sound quality was something that was amazing. And, Mr. Dunn was remarking to that. We've got we're optically isolated on that endpoint, Mr. Dunn. So our situation, our noise floor is incredibly low when we go into our system at this point. So we've accomplished something very cool there too. And Gene, I've heard you mention over time things like when you have a well-engineered amplifier, some of the quality you'll get out of it when you're listening to it on a good set of speakers. Mm-hmm. I would equate what Audality has done with their wireless tech to something like that. When you're running a speaker, has good specs, has good engineering to it. When you insert Audality into the mix, what you get is that same kind of thing you get out of well-engineered amplifiers and other electronics. It just has that sound to it. I don't know if I've ever heard you describe it exactly this way, but for example, the soundstage might have a bit more depth, a bit more height, things like that you might get from a good amplifier and electronic setup. And when I use the other wireless tech that's out there, it flattens that all out. The dynamics get flattened a little bit. They're all supposed to be high res, but we lose something. Does that make sense, Gene?
Yeah, I got you. I mean, I kind of equate that to dynamic range and also like with a TV, good contrast ratio, right? When you have very low noise floor, no compression, you are able to hear the dynamics of the music better. You're able to hear the little subtleties of the details without it being masked. And that's the experience I've seen lately, especially with the state-of-the-art Class D amplifiers, like the Hypex one that you're showing. I consider that state-of-the-art. Purify. I mean, there's a bunch of really good Class D amps. And one of the advantages that we didn't even talk about in this live stream is when you design an active speaker and there's no passive crossovers in there anymore, and every speaker driver is directly coupled to its own amplifier, and all the processing is done digitally. So you have much more precision in controlling the directivity of the speaker and the integration of the drivers. Now you throw on a high-res wireless technology on top of that. Not only is it convenient, but you're getting, the very best sound you can get.
Well, we would fully agree with that at this point, Gene. There's a our speaker is fully active. Every driver has its own Hypex amp. And the key to it all at some point became that Audality link. In addition to making our lives a lot easier, the sound quality ended up being the real star of the show there. So that's something that is hard to get across to people, obviously, until they've experienced it for themselves. But again, I listened to it I had to kind of, I wasn't sure how it was even possible. I don't know what these guys do. I know that Paul, they're the engineering guru behind this. Whatever's in this box, I'll use a scientific term. It's black magic voodoo or something. It's awesome.
That's so funny. That's what Mark used to say.
Yeah.
Black magic voodoo. Now have a shot of bourbon.
Yeah. So I would just urge anybody that's considering trying to work in the space. I think we could all agree that the best wire is no wire. Okay. Certainly Gene over the years has disproved a lot of myths about cable and all the other craziness that's out there. By doing what we've done, we don't have any of the problems we have trying to select things like speaker cable and all the things people get crossed up in. We just get great sound right out of the gate, right to the speaker with no muss, no fuss. So it's worked out great for us.
Thanks. Well, I think we have Gene, I think there's a slide that shows, I want to skip that one for the moment. We're going to come back to that one. This one right here, it's a little hard to read. You can read the headings, but this is on our website. And this is one that just talks about the process that we use from the time an OEM would contact me. I will bring them in, listen to what their application is, what they need. We would have a first client meeting, listen to their product vision, do some idea sketching about how we could achieve what they're trying to achieve, and then start working, pull in a sales engineer or a Mark Krikorian or a Paul Rayleigh, and begin to finalize at least the initial design, build the product, and deliver and launch. And that may look kind of like pretty commonplace about how this was done. But I guess, Matt, I would want you to spend just a couple of seconds talking about between the work that we did with you and Jeff Cussard and Nate up in Minnesota, just kind of give a little feel for the way this process went off with you guys.
All right. Well, I think the main thing I'd like to get across is in my background, I've seen 38 products from a concept all the way to a production product. And I've had a lot of different experiences with big engineering teams, small engineering teams. There's always been a kind of a weird dance that goes on. And especially when you're using a wireless technology with the other platforms that are available out there, sometimes you run into problems. You guys solved a few problems for us and you did it handily. You get on these meetings with the whole engineering team, your guys, the technology partners team, and there's a bit of vagueness to it. There's a bit of, hey, this isn't probably our problem. There's a kind of a weird dance that goes on. And I can say that whenever I got involved with you guys on one of those type of calls, there was like this transparency to it. There was an eagerness to figure out what was going on. No, hey, we've never experienced that before kind of comments. Some of these companies, I hate to say, probably have more lawyers than they do engineers that we worked with in the past. And it was quite the experience to work with your team, Mark and Mark. That was different. I mean, when we had our problems, which we did, they weren't huge, but you guys jumped on it. You got it under control and saved us a huge amount of time. We got our product to market as a result of those kind of things. I don't know if you want to go into specifics or not, Mark, but
no, that I just wanted to get the flavor out there because we are proud of the collaboration that we had both. We know that Jeff is in one location, Nate's in another, you're out in Arizona, different time zones and different problems and different responsibilities. And we were proud of the fact that we could get everybody collaborating on the same page, hitting targets, hitting timelines. And I think that would lead us to a slide that's called the results.
Well, I have a quick question. I'm going to pretend I'm a manufacturer for a minute.
Okay.
I've got a speaker. It's a powered speaker. Maybe it doesn't even have DSP. It's just got crossovers in it, but it's got an amplifier. If I want to convert that speaker to a wireless with Audality, do you guys only do the wireless, or do you actually help if they want to put some DSP in there and pull out the crossovers and do full DSP active speaker? Do you offer any tech support on that as an additional service, or do you want a product that's already finished and you just get to retrofit it for wireless?
No, that's a great question, Gene. Really, the way we start is, okay, what do you have? What problem are you trying to solve? And we do have different arrows in the quiver. So the first question is starts with things like, well, do you have a way to get digital audio directly into your system, and you're going to process it, amplify it, and run with it, or do you need amplification? We have wireless amplifiers as well. And one of the really cool things about the technology is that you can implement a digital crossover in the radio in the way our technology is. So you can, without a DSP at all, you can take a Class D amplifier and feed it with either line level or digital, whatever happens to be available on your side. And then we all sit down. That's where the product vision and the sketching out of ideas comes into play, because we really are just trying to understand what the lay of the land is and how we attack the problem, and then work together to figure out the best approach. So yeah, we can eliminate crossovers. We can do some complex filters, and even to some extent, there's an ability to do some room correction and things like that inside of our technology.
Very
And
cool.
so I just want to make sure that everybody heard that one little piece he said in there. We do market and sell wireless amplifiers with this technology already integrated at different sizes for different size speakers. So
Are they all based on the Hypex, or do they have different variety of amplifiers?
I'm going to let Mark Krikorian speak.
No, they're not actually. We do a fully integrated Audality amplifier with our wireless on board. And of course, we're also agnostic at the same time, because if Hypex is your choice, we don't want to solve the problem the wrong way. If you already have the right solution, like Concierge did and does, we're perfectly content to feed the audio wirelessly into whatever system you have.
Cool.
Mark, I don't want to jump in too much, but I believe it's safe to say you guys are a full electronics integration firm, meaning if somebody can think it up, you guys can pretty much create it when it comes to wireless and audio. I've seen some of the stuff you built.
Yeah, we're problem solvers with a really solid technology.
All right, let's move on the slides here. So this is the actual, Matt, this is your product here that you're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
the speaker's on the right side there. And you see the little that this is quite the interesting thing for us, because we had platforms that we were also testing that did other things. They gave us the ability to have the kitchen sink, a Swiss Army knife approach, where we would have Google Cast, AirPlay, Bluetooth, a million other things. I don't know if you guys can speak to this, but has anybody ever had any of the other wireless platforms I just mentioned, work perfectly, or have you ever had any trouble getting things to connect or issues?
I mean, my biggest problem is Bluetooth headphones. I've always had issues with it pairing to my phone or not pairing at all, and that's been my struggle. I'm not huge on headphones to begin with, but yeah, so I never done a whole lot of wireless when it comes to hi-fi. I'm still a traditionalist with wires, but I have been testing out your A1 system, and I think I have a picture of it so people can see it. So this is the A1, and it comes with this little dongle. I don't know if you guys can see it, and this goes, let me show you up close. So this plugs right into your phone, and you plug in the A1, and you plug the A1 into your audio system, and it worked within minutes. I mean, I thought I had to download an app, and luckily that Audality app that's on the Play Store has nothing to do with this, right, Mark?
That's right.
Yeah. So I've done extensive testing on this for about a month, and I've compared the analog outputs to the digital outputs, and I have a very high-end preamp. I've got the Anthem STR preamp here, which has a state-of-the-art DAC. Obviously, when I do a direct comparison, the DAC and the STR blows away the DAC that's in the Audality. But I don't think most people that are using it are going to use the analog outputs anyway. They're going to plug it. Yeah, they're going to plug it into a digital processor, which you should. If you're really into audio, this is what you want to do. And the fact that you guys offer coax and Toslink out on it, I enjoyed it. Look, I could come up here at night with my wife, and I could put on my phone. I could put on Tidal, Apple Music. I could put on stored files that I have on my phone, high resolution FLAC, and it's transparent. I mean, it just sounds wonderful, and it always works. And that's the important thing to me, the fact that it always works. I could literally give this little dongle to my kids. They could plug it in their phone, come up here and listen to music.
And I experienced the same thing, Gene. Matt, I've used all those above formats many times, testing speakers and whatnot. And one thing I will say is when I deployed the Audality system, the 4 amplifiers to 4 separate speakers, that the connection process was painless. Literally a button connection, and it connected right away to it. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I guess that first tag at the top there, just press play. Whatever the end user is using already, Gene, you already mentioned it. Whatever app you like to use, you fire it up and you hit play and you're playing. Okay, there is no third app that you've got to, some of these wireless platforms have their app where you play things like Tidal and Qobuz and other things within them.
Yeah.
You've got to set that all up, and sometimes that doesn't work, so you have to kind of start from scratch and get it all figured out again. We experienced quite a bit of that. We were using some of the things like Alexa voice control and other things that would work half the time with other platforms. And then when it doesn't work, what do? You don't even know why it's not working. You just basically hard power off everything and hope for the best. With all Audality, it's been a just press play experience. I've got a slide, I think it's going to be included, where I've been in pretty rough situations out in the field where Audality's transmitter process.
Let's go back up. Let's go back up, Gene, to that slide I skipped. He has a slide called "In the Field." Right there, you go, right there.
Okay, this will sound a little bit weird, but I was at a high-end salon where I provided music for the salon. I won't tell you why I was doing it, but it worked out great for me. I'll just tell you that much. So this is a place with, hair dryers. It's a bunch of things around it, all kinds of crazy noise. And I showed up there early in the morning, get things set up. I brought way too much stuff with me, like I mentioned, Gene, before.
Mm-hmm.
I just plugged my speaker into the wall there, as you can see it. I had one on one side of the room, one on the other. I wasn't even trying to do stereo, and luckily for me, Audality, I can sum the speakers to both left and right and play music in a big space like this big salon. It was probably 50 by 100 feet. And I was there to show what it would do to fill that whole space with music instead of their ceiling speakers. And when I got there, they had no Wi-Fi for me to connect to. Luckily for me, on the iPad I brought with me, I had about 4 hours of music. So all I did was connect my Audality transmitter, this tiny little thing, right to my iPad, started playing music for the whole day, just left it sitting there at their receptions area. And I actually went to lunch with my team and came back because I had a client showing up there a couple hours later. But I got there real early thinking I need to vet this whole thing. And I was worried about everything that might happen in that commercial space. And it was absolutely where it was in a very weird environment. And the fact that I couldn't connect to the internet didn't stop me at all. I did a pretty good demo with just my iPad and a transmitter. So that worked out specifically well for us. The second scenario you see there is a very large home here in Paradise Valley, Arizona. That's one of my clients' home that kind of overlooks the desert. And we were in there, and you can't really tell that sunken living room area is quite large, but where I photographed that from, that room goes back about 100 feet. You can actually see the back of the room where those colorful reflections are. I was standing back there playing the music, from my iPad with no connection to the internet at all, and getting great results in a giant space like that. And the third scenario you'll see is I went to an architect's office to show them our product. In our case, we have a flexible finish, so I was able to show them how the finishes can be changed and kind of be curated to go in these high design homes that this particular architect worked within. So I was doing a presentation for his staff and some of his clients. If you see in the bottom picture of that frame, you'll see the iPad I brought with me, and again, the Audality transmitter connected to it. For the first half of that, I just had what was on the iPad. They finally got me onto their Wi-Fi network. That worked just fine too, so people could select whatever song they wanted at that point. So again, really good results in the field, and that's all that really matters, because all the other stuff I've used over the years, I run into problems in the field. If you look at any owner's manual for any wireless platform out there, you'll see a spot where they say, hey, if you're having any kind of problems, reduce your resolution, or some of them have wires that you can connect between the two speakers and give yourself a better connection because the wireless doesn't work discreetly. The fact is that fully discrete left and right channel high res audio wirelessly is pretty hard to do. And in our case, it had to be discrete. We don't want a wire between the speakers. We can't have one. It's got to be two beautiful tower speakers just sitting there doing their own thing with nothing in between them. We didn't want to bother to build, a tri-amped speaker with full DSP and DAC built in and have a wire go between them. Does that make sense, Gene?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a wireless system if you do that.
Right. Go ahead.
We have a question here I wanted to bring up, and it's a good question. Any plans on having this set up at a show demo space anytime soon? Retail space for people, maybe Capital Audio Fest or Florida Audio Expo? Well, Florida Audio Expo is next year. I think it's in January or February, but Capital's coming up pretty soon. Are you guys going to be at any of these shows, or is there a retail space people could go and check this out?
Yeah, so the model is not a retail space model, but we will be at multiple events throughout the year. People signed up so far that are throughout the country. We'll probably end up with 50 through the end of the year, all placed in every state in the lower 48. So, and we've got somebody in Hawaii and Alaska as well. So you should be able to get a demo of our technology and Audalities in pretty much any state you're in, and we'll come to you. So that salon was an example. We came to that client. So it shouldn't be hard for people to get an even better demo than at a show where they could get one specifically for them.
So Mark or Matt, maybe you guys, after the show's over, provide a link to me that I could put into the description that shows where where people can demo, or just a way to contact to get a demo. I mean, I think people would be really interested in that.
We can certainly do that.
So wow, we got someone
Matt,
listening.
I had a similar experience to what you had when I used the Audality amplifiers. It was in a grand ballroom of the third largest house ever built in America. So there's some pretty good distance between it. And I used the microphone they supplied me, which it kind of blended in with the amplifiers, and it was a really neat setup. So now these were passive speakers. They weren't like the monitors I used to have with the built-in Audality. But I had 4 separate Audality amplifiers, hooked them all up to the central control unit, had the microphone working with the phone, and it all worked seamlessly, and it sounded very, very good. So it's a legit product, and you're going to have a little pushback on it because it's new and different. But my experience is it's of the highest resolution. It was very comparable to anything else I was listening to.
Yeah. So let's talk about the A1 bridge for consumers, because I'm sure consumers are wondering if they can get something and retrofit their passive speakers or their wired system now, and they can. This is the one I was talking about, the one I've been playing with for about a month and really been enjoying. What's the retail on this, and where can you buy it?
Mark Krikorian, I'm gonna let you handle that.
Yeah, so retail price on it is $699.95. You can buy it on our website. It's in pre-release right now. So there's a couple things that are still in flux. You can see it's got pretty big rabbit ear antennas on it. We're toying with whether we can, slim that down a little bit and make it a little more sleek. But right now, the point is to make sure you have the kind of range that you need. And so $699.95 gets you a super high quality digital out from either Toslink or Speediff coax, or you can use our built-in DAC and come out line level, which, like Gene said, it is not a pro quality DAC. It's a good DAC. It's not a great DAC. But
yeah, it doesn't sound bad. The only time I can hear a difference is if I directly compare it to a true state of the art DAC. I mean, it sounded good on its own. And as for the rabbit ears, I actually pointed them down in my cabinet because I'm only sitting about 15 feet away, and there's still plenty of transmission signal, so I didn't have any problems with having rabbit ears sticking up. I mean, it's kind of a throwback, right, to the to when we had the little things we put on our TVs to get local stations.
Yeah, and it's an all aluminum extruded enclosure, so it'll block any RF from inside the box. So it had to be external, and then the transmitter is the same transmitter Gene was showing earlier that plugs into your phone or computer, and transmits directly wireless. And if you go from your phone, tablet, or computer into this receiver, then and you come out digital, you're never going through a D to A or an A to D in it, and as a result, you have just absolutely amazing sound.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. So when you're playing the music off your phone, it's not the phone that's doing the processing; it's just sending out the signal digitally, and the D to A is happening where you plug in into your audio equipment.
Yeah, and one thing that we haven't really mentioned is an important component of the technology is the fact that when you transmit from that little USB dongle, it can transmit to up to 4 speakers. So it can transmit 2 lefts and 2 rights, and you can go to 4 speakers. When you do that, the audio arrives at those four speakers within a handful of microseconds of one another. And that's one of the reasons that the soundstage is so dark and so full, and you get this kind of a spatial thing that you can't get unless you have that, just because every receiver is getting the audio at the same exact time. So you're getting everything that's in the production when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is meant for high-end listeners, and you will hear the difference if you use it.
And to that point, Gene, I think I may have sent you the link. If we could put the link in the YouTube, can we put that link in the YouTube?
I already put it in the description of the videos.
Okay. So like Mark said, it's in pre-release. So this is what you would get now. We are still doing some design on other antenna configurations, but we would be glad for folks to do the pre-sale. We will be glad to ship you one of these and honor it. We honor our 30-day try it. Give it a home trial for 30 days. For any reason you don't like it, you're going to like it. But if for any reason you don't, you can let us know.
So you guys are worried about that antenna, Mark and Mark. Have you seen the gaming routers that are out there?
Yeah.
They look like crowns. So I think we should talk a little bit about applications for this. And Mark and I have been through Krikorian, have been through several long conversations about distributed audio. Besides, you got a high-end condo and you can't run wires. Now you've got the ability to do that. Now you have the ability to expand that into other rooms. So you have a nice set of bookshelves. You want a little amplifier to run those. Say you've got 4 rooms of sound, 5 rooms of sound, zone 2 audio out of a receiver. I mean, there are a multitude of applications. We have to just always go back. This isn't just wireless technology. There's a million wireless technologies. This is 100% high resolution wireless technology. So I think we need to put that in the forefront all the time when we're having this conversation as people come in. I mean, Matt's got your speakers are what, 20, 30 grand a pair, Matt?
They're 75 to 85.
Oh, sorry, 75 to 85,000 a pair. I stand corrected. So, I mean, that's a bold statement alone. If a company building high resolution speakers is putting this technology into their speakers. That alone should be enough statement for most people. I think that's impressive.
Yeah, like Mark Krikorian said at the top, I mean, there are a lot of applications outside of. I'm not sure that's going to fit the audioholics audience as
Sure.
well, but even the outdoors, we're doing some things with the range is something that you have to take into effect too, and so some of these systems are being used at outdoor weddings, like you mentioned, the golf course events. We've got people now looking at outfitting high school stadiums, football stadiums, because of the range and the clarity that our audio provides. So again, that may not be the audioholics audience, but you're right, Don. There's millions of applications for this. So if there's somebody out there that's watching this, that I'm watching this because I'm a audioholic, audiophile, but I'm also looking to create products that are just moving audio from one place to another. That's what we're here for, and that's why at the end, Gene is going to make sure that my contact information is in the YouTube file and on the screen, and you guys can contact me, and I will start the discussion, the application discovery, what you're trying to do with it. And again, we're not trying to sell you something you don't need. We're trying to listen to what you have and what you can do with our technology to make it better.
So, Gene, there's a plethora of wireless subwoofer kits too. Think about the application for that: high resolution wireless subwoofer kits.
Yeah, sure.
Where you're not suffering.
Yeah, because some of those wireless subwoofer kits have some pretty significant delay. I mean,
full delay and lack of resolution. Again, it goes back to the high resolution portion of this. There's a lot of. We could literally sit here for 3 hours and come up with solutions for this.
Yeah, Mark, have you guys thought about licensing this to subwoofer companies?
Absolutely. Yeah, we talk to subwoofer manufacturers all the time. We have a lot going on that we'd love to talk to them about.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, I think we got a clear focus on what this product's all about, what the technology is all about. I think OEM partners can appreciate this kind of a solution, and probably will get in contact with you with the contact info below. And as a consumer, you could try this out now with that A1 kit that I was talking about. And I'm sure down the road, there's going to be more consumer oriented focused products for people.
And amplifiers too.
And amplifiers, yeah.
Amplifiers.
They have a whole series, at least you did, of wireless Class D, really good quality amplifiers. So if you wanted to do some additional audio in an area that you couldn't get to, if you had a 2-story that wasn't feasible to wire, you don't want to Swiss cheese your walls. If you start to think about a lot of applications for it right now.
Yeah. And I want to thank Matt for coming on and being our customer guinea pig and doing giving the truth, because we've had a really good run and a really good experience, and looking forward to their success in the field with their RMS1 system.
I just want to hear Matt's speakers. Come on.
Yeah,
I've heard them. They're great.
We're glad to get you a demo, Don.
Awesome.
Well, we got to coordinate. If there's one in Tampa or something, we'll definitely come out and check it out and report back for you guys.
Excellent.
Thanks, Gene and Don.
Yeah.
Now you got to hit the circuit with all the different audio shows, and using that wireless technology. That's really what you need to do.
It makes the room setup a bit easier.
Oh, you think? You think? Don't put us out of business as integrators. Got kids to feed. Come on.
Quick question, a technical question here. How is the channel latency maintained for audible accuracy?
Yeah, so the clock is distributed in the wireless and reconstructed on the other side, and that is one of the key features of this technology. And one of the things that we've seen is a lot of people using femto clocks and other things with their DACs in order to reduce jitter. We have super low jitter on the clock, and the clock is distributed, and every receiver gets it at exactly the same time, and it's super tight within like I said, a handful of microseconds.
Mom, you shouldn't be moving around for a second here. I got to work with the guys.
Well, and Mark is a electrical engineer, by the way. Mark Krikorian. I don't know if you are, Mark Henry.
No, I
you
went down the
pretty
chemical
basic.
engineering route. We met at Georgia Tech about a million
we're
years
back.
ago.
Oh, did you?
And yeah. So now he's the. I know enough about the electrical engineering business to be just dangerous, but that's why we have Mark and Paul. So good team.
Plus, he makes a hell of an old fashioned. So I'm just saying.
Happy to do it again sometime.
Oh, I'll be down for that.
Oh, what was that drink
he
you made?
does.
That
The
New Orleans
Sazerac.
drink? Sazerac, yeah.
Yeah,
Mark
thanks
always
for
tries to give me
for
the
springing
Sazerac.
for the rye.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's a wrap up. I appreciate you guys coming
well,
on
I think
here.
that's.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on here talking about Audality. You guys need to definitely check this out, whether you're an OEM or a consumer. All the links are in the video description below. If you like this video, please hit the thumb up. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.
Thanks, G.